Rights as provided for in Article 36 of the Constitution. Fundamentally, I mean, even in the provided in the laws of natural justice, Mr. Speaker, that when an old agreement, when a new agreement is signed, the other one just dies naturally. And when somebody makes a decision today, yesterday's decision does not matter. I am now, yes, laws of natural justice. So, Mr. Speaker, I plead with you, Mr. Speaker, to save me from that bad, abusive marriage.
Time up.
I was not the Azimio candidate. I am a member of parliament for Tiati, and my people know that I'm in Kenya.
I'll give the floor to the Honorable Didmus Baraza. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I will just go straight to invite you to Article 36 of the Constitution. And we believe in the supremacy of the Constitution. Article 36, Honorable Speaker, it protects an individual and a political party from the freedom of association. And even as you retreat to deliver the judgment on this matter, I want you to be guided by two things. Do we believe? If we believe in the supremacy of the Constitution and the freedom of association, can this freedom, which is a fundamental right, be taken away by an agreement between two people or between one party and the other, an agreement which was signed in an opaque manner, Mr. Speaker? I don't believe so. The second thing, Mr. Speaker, that I want you to look at is that it will be indeed a very sad day for Kenya. It will be a dark day for this country if you will allow that an individual or political parties can be forced to remain or to associate with a person they have vehemently refused. All those parties that have said they don't belong to Azimio and Kenya, they have said so through a letter, NEWSLIFE. They have left this abusive marriage, Honorable Speaker, and it will be wrong. Your hands are tied, Honorable Speaker. You took oath of office to protect and uphold the Constitution. And because we believe in the supremacy of the Constitution, the fundamental right of an individual to associate with a political party of his or her choice cannot be washed away by you, Honorable Speaker. Your hands are tied, and if these people have said they want to leave the Azimio One Kenya Alliance, you have no choice. The One Kenya Alliance party has to let them go, and they should leave, Honorable Speaker. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, is that I was in this House when that law was being passed. I have a lot of respect for my good friend TJ Kajwang. But TJ Kajwang is the one who misled these members of ODM. He was masquerading as the people's Chief Justice into believing that this was a good law. You planted your own mango trees, you have to eat it, you have to live by it, as me and Kenya.
Order, Honorable Didmus.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I didn't really want to interrupt my good colleague, Honorable Didmus Baraza. But, Mr. Speaker, is it in order for Honorable Didmus Baraza to impute improper motive on the membership of this House, especially from ODM, by insinuating that TJ Kajwang misled a whole lot of us, people who have gone to school and have gone to school properly? Mr. Speaker, he should withdraw that remark and apologize to us. Someone like me who has gone to school and has gone to school properly cannot be misled by TJ Kajwang.
The Honorable Mbadi, the only difficult I have is that TJ Kajwang is sitting there smiling broadly as being described. Honorable Didmus, you wind up your argument.
Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by saying that we warned this ODM party that when you make laws for posterity. You don't make laws to support where you are standing. Now they are finding themselves on the receiving end. The Constitution must be applied rightfully. This Constitution cannot be rubbished. The rights that are in this Constitution cannot be taken away by people who signed a document, and I'm told even when they were signing those documents, they may have drunk some things which don't go to the stomach, but they go upstairs, Honorable Speaker. So the ruling for you is going to be very clear, Honorable Speaker, that the majority coalition is Kenya Kwanza.
The Honorable Robert Mbui. Nobody's on the floor, the Honorable TJ, so nothing is out of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. First, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that this issue of who is majority and who is minority has caused a lot of confusion. In fact, the media, our voters are confused to the point where some think that the same way we voted for the Speaker here is the same way we might end up having to vote for the leader of majority. But, Mr. Speaker, this issue is not opaque. This is in black and white. Because, Mr. Speaker, I've heard members here talk about some issues, and I think I would like to say that what we are facing as a problem now is a situation, and because members have talked about marriage, is a situation where your newlywed wife, after she settles in your home, notices that your neighbor has a brand new car. And then she starts now talking about an abusive marriage. But nothing has gone wrong. And Mr. Speaker, any relationship with a neighbor with a brand new car or a house on the top of the hill is actually a cohabiting relationship. It is not a properly procured marriage. So, Mr. Speaker, who has a properly procured marriage? Those of us, Mr. Speaker, that signed an agreement before the time of the election. Mr. Speaker, this Constitution Article 108 is very clear about the leader of the majority party, and it says on Part 2 that it is the leader of the largest party or coalition of parties. And Mr. Speaker, I want to point out that the size of a party is based on the number of elected members. Mr. Speaker, if you go back to the last election, there was 4 teams that were competing for elective office. Let's forget the Wajakoa and the other one. We are left with 2 teams, and that was Raila Amolo Odinga and William Samoei Ruto. Each of them had a coalition, which was known by everybody in the country, including even nursery school children. Mr. Speaker, the results of this election were announced, and it clearly showed that those that were elected under the Azimio la Umoja were more than those that were elected under the Kenya Kwanza. Mr. Speaker, it is only after the election that things started changing, and only after the announcement of Honorable William Ruto, His Excellency, as the president, that things started changing. If the results were different, I can tell you, we would not even be having this discussion. So let us be honest with ourselves and agree, Mr. Speaker, that the fact is this. You know, and I've heard that, I've heard people complain, but let me just tell you, the fact is that to determine the majority is by a letter that was read and tabled on the floor today. So what further argument do we have about deciding who is the majority? Now, in another month, Mr. Speaker, I do agree that Azimio la Umoja will not be majority. But as we speak today, Mr. Speaker, I think you have under no obligation to make that decision because the decision is already made for you. The Constitution has made that decision. The Standing Orders 2B has made that decision. So, Mr. Speaker, your work is easy for you. I've heard this issue of the Political Parties Act being lambasted by members of this House. I want to say this, Mr. Speaker. It is unfortunate that we as members of the House are the ones that passed this law, and now we are insulting it. Mr. Speaker, there is no duress because members of Parliament did take a vote, and there are those that voted for it, and there are those that voted against it. Mr. Speaker, as you sit on your chair, please note, and this is a fact, that, Mr. Speaker, members make a decision through a vote. So if the vote is taken and this becomes a law, it becomes a law for the land. And His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta actually assented to it. So when we start saying it is an amorphous law, it is a bad law, it is a law that was under coercion, Mr. Speaker, I think it is unfortunate because as a House, we made a decision, we made our bed, we lie on it. But Mr. Speaker, there's nothing wrong with the Political Parties Act. It's only curing political indiscipline, where people want to belong to one party and another at the same time, where people are elected in one coalition and the next day they troop in their numbers to go and get coerced, Mr. Speaker, so that they can defect for the parties that elected them. Mr. Speaker, members of parliament must remain true to the people that elected them into the House, and those who are elected under Azimio must stick with Azimio. Mr. Speaker, there are people from our region who are elected, and we went as Wiper to support them because they were in Azimio. Now, immediately after the election, they jump and go to Kenya Kwanza. But they have not gone to tell the people why they defected. Mr. Speaker, I think it is a simple decision. Azimio la Umoja is a majority party, and I am the deputy.
Thank you, Honorable. The Honorable, we have really many members. The Honorable Member Chepkonga.
Mr. Speaker.
Chepkonga and Chonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My mind started with CH and it was clear. Mr.